should look at what's worked in a perfectly sensible democratic country like Denmark. We should follow some of their policies. Some of them will not be easily adapted in this country.
How many of your Labour colleagues, Labour MPs that you've spoken to, shared the view that the sort of best course of action now would be to leave the ECHR?
I wouldn't be able to put a number on that because we have different laws. But yes, we should take a lead from Denmark, but we should also suspend or get out of the European Convention on Human Rights.
What happens when a Labour Member of Parliament openly turns against his own party leader in Parliament? Today, Graham Stringer didn't just disagree quietly. He stood up and insisted the truth was being hidden. He said these crossings aren't escapes from war zones. They're departures from France, exploiting a system no one in power seems willing to fix. Why would he choose this moment to expose Labour's weak stance? And what does it mean for Starmer's authority moving forward? Let's break down this shocking intervention and what it signals for Labour's increasingly fragile unity.
I could tell you that everybody I've spoken to is concerned that we need to do something about it. They're looking at the opinion polls, they're listening to their constituents, they're having, over the summer, I know some of my colleagues in the Northwest, to vote for MPs who continue to allow this to happen. So I don't know how many people believe we should leave the convention. I know people want us to take it seriously, and the things that the Home Office have announced so far have been having open meetings with constituents to listen to concerns, and it is coming through loud and clearly that people are not prepared.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Is not a helpful initiative.
What about the criticism will be, we like the principles for why we signed up to this in the first place, that we want to be a safe haven, a welcoming place to protect people.
And I don't see the new initiatives. I didn't answer the point about speeding up the process. Speeding up a process where 75% of the people stay. So, I mean, I think we have been too generous. When Clem Attlee, the Labour Prime Minister, immediately after the war signed up to this convention, he signed up on the basis that it would never apply to the United Kingdom. He signed up to encourage those countries.
What does it mean when a Labour politician decides the party line has gone too far to be credible and then says so publicly? For years, Labour has gone to great lengths to present itself as united on the subject of immigration, a subject that never fails to split public opinion. But that image took a serious hit when Graham Stringer, a man who has been in Parliament for decades, decided he would not sit quietly while his own front bench repeated a position he did not believe was honest. His decision to confront Yvette Cooper in the Commons was not a passing comment, and it was not a slip of the tongue. It was a deliberate challenge, and it carried weight because of who he is, a senior figure, not a rebellious newcomer or an opportunist seeking attention. For context, Stringer is not a headline-chasing politician. He has built his career on local issues in his Manchester constituency, and he rarely goes looking for conflict with his own party leadership. That is what made his intervention so striking. Instead of accepting the party's official stance, that people making the Channel crossings are mainly desperate individuals escaping war and persecution, he pointed to the plainly obvious fact that these journeys start from France. France is not a war zone, and everyone involved in the debate knows that. By stating this outright in the chamber, Stringer forced his colleagues to confront a contradiction they prefer to leave unexplored. He did not stop there. What made his comments stand out even more was the language he chose to use. He described these crossings as the exploitation of a broken system, and his choice of words was no accident. By framing it as a system failure, he connected the issue not to humanitarian appeals, but to the frustration of ordinary voters who look at the Channel and see uncontrolled borders. It was an argument many outside Westminster have voiced repeatedly, But the difference this time was that it came from inside Labour's ranks. Keir Starmer has worked hard to keep dissent contained, especially on this topic. Since becoming leader, he has demanded discipline and consistently told MPs not to give the Conservatives easy attacks on Labour's credibility over immigration. Cracks are showing, particularly in the northern heartlands, where public anger about uncontrolled crossings is palpable. Stringer represents one of those constituencies, and he would know that ignoring the issue risks alienating people who already feel the national leadership is tone-deaf to their concerns. Recent polling only reinforces that point. Surveys show immigration has surged to the front of national concerns, with 27% of voters saying it is the single biggest issue facing the country. Politicians rarely ignore figures like that because they spell danger at ballot boxes. An MP like Stringer is painfully aware that if Labour does not address those concerns directly, his party faces a backlash. Speaking out in Parliament was a way of signalling that Labour cannot hide behind slogans about compassion while thousands of people are arriving in small boats each month. What really sets Stringer's intervention apart is that he even highlighted specific alternatives to Labour's position. He pointed to Denmark, a fellow European country, which has taken a noticeably stricter approach to controlling asylum applications. By holding up Denmark as an example, Stringer not only exposed Labour's vulnerability, but showed that credible models already exist. This is more than a critique. It is him offering another path, and in doing so, rejecting the idea that Labour's current framing is the only legitimate one. The bigger issue here is not simply immigration policy, but Starmer's control over his own MPs. Discipline is only effective as long as members believe silence is in their best interests. When one breaks ranks, it emboldens others who feel equally uneasy. If backbench MPs start speaking up, it is only a matter of time before Starmer looks less like a strong leader and more like a figure desperately managing internal unrest. That is why Stringer's words matter more than any single comment in a debate. They mark a shift, however subtle, in what Labour MPs feel able to say out loud. For many years, critics inside the party have muttered privately about immigration, but few stood up in Parliament to challenge the official line. By doing so, Stringer has opened the door for others, and at the very least, voters now know that frustration exists on Labour's benches too. The real question is whether this was a one-off act of defiance or the first signal of something larger brewing inside the party. Stringer's decision to speak out may seem minor compared to the drama of Prime Minister's questions or televised debates, but its impact cuts deeper. It exposes a fault line in Labour's carefully controlled narrative on immigration, one that cannot be smoothed over by press releases. When even long-serving MPs feel compelled to break ranks, it raises questions about how strong Keir Starmer's authority really is. Do you see Stringer as an isolated maverick, or the first sign of wider defiance? This moment leaves us asking if it's simply dissent, or the opening chapter of a political realignment on immigration.